Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. In this video, we are going to talk about Microsoft Sentinel. Now, what is Microsoft Sentinel? Microsoft Sentinel is a cloud-native SIEM and SOAR solution from Microsoft that helps you detect, investigate, and respond to cybersecurity threats in your environment. It is built on Azure, therefore it is cloud-native. It helps you collect and analyze logs from cloud and on-prem sources. It allows you to respond automatically to threats. Now let's understand what SIEM is. SIEM stands for Security Information and Event Management. It is responsible for detecting and investigating security incidents. And SOAR stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. It is responsible for responding and automation of your responses. Let's understand the workflow of Microsoft Sentinel. Now, the first thing that you need to do is connect data connectors. Essentially, you're connecting data sources to your log analytics workspace. Microsoft Sentinel is deployed on a log analytics workspace and it sits top of the log analytics workspace, helping you to analyze the data that gets ingested. The next stage is analytics rules. These are KQL or Custom Query Language Based Detection Logic. Now, you do not have to be an expert in KQL to use Microsoft Sentinel. Microsoft Sentinel already has got a pre-built set of rules that you can use. So once you create these analytics rules, alerts get generated when the rule conditions are met. These alerts then create incidents, and multiple alerts can be merged or grouped into an incident depending on how you set them up. And after incidents are created, you can use automation rules to trigger on incidents, and these rules can either initiate playbooks, things like letting your security team know that there's a security incident by sending an email or posting a message on a Teams channel, or it can update the metadata of an incident to assign an owner, change the priority, etc. So this is the complete workflow of Microsoft Sentinel's core features. Now that you have got a better understanding of what Microsoft Sentinel is, let's go to our dev environment and see everything in action. I have now logged into my Azure dev environment. I've used my global administrator account to log in, and my global administrator account has the owner RBAC permission on my Azure subscription, so I can pretty much do anything on my Azure environment. But I will put the Microsoft documentation, which will tell you what are the least privileges that you must have in order to deploy Microsoft Sentinel in your environment. First of all, let's go ahead and create a log analytics workspace. This is your repository or your database where all the logs gets ingested to. And then on top of your log analytics workspace, you will create a Microsoft Sentinel workspace. So Microsoft Sentinel will be your SIEM and SOAR tool running on top of the log analytics workspace. Let me click log analytics workspace. If you don't see the log analytics workspaces option in the home page, you can always go to this global search bar and type log analytics, and you will see the option under services called log analytics workspaces. Once you're there, you can click create. Now, as you can see, I've already got a log analytics workspace and I do have an existing Microsoft Sentinel workspace running on this tenant, which I will use to explain some of the features later down this tutorial. But first of all, I am going to create everything from scratch. So let's click create, and I'm going to use my existing Azure resource group. I'm going to call this log analytics workspace Sentinel 2, and I'm going to keep the region as Central India. And I do not need to add any tags, so I'm going to simply go ahead and click review and create. And it's going to go through a final validation, and we can now click create to create our log analytics workspace. So this is the first step towards deploying your Microsoft Sentinel solution. Okay, so our log analytics workspace has been created now. Let me go to the search bar and search for Microsoft Sentinel and click on Microsoft Sentinel, and I'm going to click create, and then it is going to automatically select the newly created log analytics workspace. This is the one that we just created, Sentinel 2. So I'm going to select that one and click add. So what is it doing now is it is adding the Microsoft Sentinel solution to our newly created log analytics workspace. Now it has successfully done that. As you can see, Microsoft Sentinel has been deployed now. You will get this notification when you do it for the very first time. You get a trial for 30 days, and during the trial you can ingest up to 10 gigabytes of data, and it's free for both Microsoft Sentinel and log analytics as well. Now I will put some links in the YouTube description for you to understand the pricing as well. It can be a little bit confusing, so I'm not going to go too much into the pricing of Microsoft Sentinel in this tutorial, but feel free to check out the links in the YouTube description. So now that we have successfully deployed Microsoft Sentinel, let's go ahead and connect our data connectors. So first of all, I'm going to just connect some of the cloud ones, the popular ones, and then I will show you how you can actually ingest data from your Azure virtual machines as well, especially from an Azure server. Okay, so let's scroll down and click on data connectors under configuration. In here you will have two options. Now obviously the featured data connectors are the top most popular data connectors. You have a bunch of other data connectors as well, which are less popular but more niche, depending on different vendors that you may want to bring data from to your Microsoft Sentinel Log Analytics workspace. You can go with Content Hub. Content Hub is this option here. This is where you see everything that comes out of the box from Microsoft Sentinel. There are so many options in here that you can explore, but let me just actually go back to data connectors. What we're going to do is let's click on get these featured data connectors. Now these are the popular ones, as I mentioned earlier. If you want to bring in data from your AWS instances, you can do that as well. As you can see, we have GCP, Google Cloud Platform, Cisco Umbrella, and so forth. And the majority of the featured ones are, as understandably, they are Microsoft data connectors. So let's go ahead and connect Azure Activity and Microsoft Entra ID, which are the most critical data connectors as far as Microsoft ecosystem is concerned. So I'm gonna select the data connector, and in here you will get some information about what this data connector is. It'll give you 2 workbooks, 14 analytics rules, and 15 hunting queries. So it comes as a package. They all come with different number of workbooks, analytic rules, and queries. So I'm going to click install, and it is going to install this data connector. After installation, you need to configure the data connector. So there's 2 steps. Doesn't matter which data connector that you go with. Every data connector, you have to install it first and then configure it. Obviously, the configuration changes from data connector to data connector. So make sure that you read the instructions carefully. So now this data connector, the Azure Activity Data Connector, has been installed successfully. Let's click Manage. And I will show you what we need to do to configure this data connector. Okay, so now I'm interested in Azure Activity, and you've got these rules. Pay attention to these icons. Once you start using Azure or Microsoft Sentinel, you will be familiar with these icons. So this icon is for the analytics rules, and these are for hunting queries. Actually, it'll tell you the type in the content type column as well. So let's go ahead and configure the data connector. so we can get the data coming through to our log analytics workspace. Now, these are the prerequisites. What we need to do is launch the Azure Policy Assignment Wizard. Basically, just follow whatever the instructions that the data connector says. Now, the scope, you can set the scope at the root level, so all Azure subscriptions are going to be included. That's the safest thing to do in case you add more Azure subscriptions. You don't have to manually come here and update the scope. So I'm just going to select the tenant root group, select, and everything else is looking good. Version preview, so you need to select the version as well. You can click yes to automatically enroll minor version changes of this policy. If you don't click that, you will have to update it manually when the time is right. But let me just click yes, and I'm just going to tick this version. I don't want to include preview version, so I'm not going to tick that. Click select, and I'm going to leave everything in here as it is, and let's go next. And I'm going to untick this option, so you will see the settings of this Azure policy. And I'm going to click on these three dots to select our workspace that we are dealing with here. Okay, so this is the new log analytics workspace that we just created. So I'm going to select that and click select. And don't worry about any remediation at this point. If you do have all the Azure resources that you want this Azure policy to be deployed to, the managed identity is already ticked, so it's gonna go ahead and take care of that for you. So let's go ahead and click review and create. I'm not gonna really bother about non-compliance messages. It's not required for this particular instance. So let's click review and create again. Role assignments have been created successfully. So we have done Azure Activity Connector. Let's go back to the data connectors once again, and I'm going to connect Entra ID. I'm gonna do the same thing, so select it, and then you can read more about what it does, and it will tell you how many data connectors, workbooks, analytic roles, and playbooks that it comes with. I'm gonna click install to install the data connector. Okay, it has been installed successfully, and let's click manage. And we're going to do the same thing in here. Obviously, the instructions are going to be different for each connector. Some are easier than others. So I'm interested in the actual data connector. These are the analytic rules and this bunch of other stuff which we can configure later. But for this step, we are only focusing on actually getting the data into our log analytics workspace so Microsoft Sentinel can analyze the data. So let me just click on the data connector itself. All green ticks, which means we're good. All we need to do is select all the log types that we want ingested to our log analytics workspace. This one is nice and easy, and click apply changes. As I mentioned earlier, give it some time. Don't worry if nothing shows up straight away. Things can take up to 24 hours. So guys, that's how you would connect a data connector. That's the first stage of getting data into your Microsoft Sentinel tool. As you can see, 2 connectors have been installed. There are 2 parts: installing the connector as well as connecting the data connector by going into manage and following the instructions as I showed earlier. Now that we have connected 2 data connectors, let's go ahead and look at analytics roles. Now, before I go, I need to point out that as soon as you connect your data connectors, you may still see them as being disconnected. Do not worry about this. Status will change in a couple of hours and you will see a green bar next to each connector so that they have been configured or connected successfully. If I can show you with my existing Sentinel instance, now this has been running for the past week or so. Let me just go to data connectors in this instance, and as you can see, there's a green tick or a green bar next to the status of the connectors that I've connected, and the connected status is showing here. So give it some time and it will come as green on your Sentinel instance. So let me just collapse this and I will go to analytics rules now. As I mentioned earlier, analytics rules are the starting point after getting the data ingested to your log analytics workspace. Analytics rules are basically the starting point of your Microsoft Sentinel journey. So what we need to do now is go ahead and create an analytic rule, and I'll show you different things that you can do with analytic rules. Now, before we go, you may see this automatically enabled in your instance as well. Now, this is a Fusion alert, a special type of alert that is managed by Microsoft, which takes a lot of data into consideration, and there's a lot of machine learning algorithms that happen behind the scenes to detect multi-stage attacks, complicated attacks. So it's enabled by default by Microsoft when you connect your Microsoft connectors, and it is suggesting to you that for this alert or for this analytic rule to work effectively, you should also go ahead and connect all of these data connectors mentioned here as well. So just keep that in mind. In a production environment, it is highly recommended that you connect all these Microsoft data connectors to take full advantage of Fusion alerts. Okay, so in this window, as you can see, there are active rules, which is this one at the moment. And then if you click on rule templates, these are the rule templates that you get from the Content Hub or the data connectors. They come with the data connectors as a package amongst other artifacts. And you can simply read them and understand what they actually meant to do. So if you want to use one of these analytics rules to create alerts, you can just simply click on one of the alerts and click create rule in here. Otherwise, you can go to this create button up at the top and create a query. Okay, so in this instance, we will go ahead and create our analytic rule from the template. So if you scroll up to the description, it will tell you what it actually does. And you need to have Microsoft Entra ID connector connected in order for this to work. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we have already connected it, so don't worry about it's not showing green in this instance. It will be showing green in a couple of hours. There's just a delay. So let's go ahead and look at this query. So this is the query that's basically running. This is a KQL or Custom Query Language query that's running behind the scenes. So let me go ahead and create this rule. It'll tell you the frequency of the rule as well and some other useful information. So let me click create rule. It'll take you through the analytics rule wizard. So this is, we're creating a new schedule rule from a template. The name, the description and severity, and the MITRE ATT&CK framework applicable sections have also been automatically populated. So you don't have to really do anything here. Click next to see the rule logic. So this is the rule logic, and it's going to query every hour, and the query period is for the last day. It's going to check the audit logs. And you can just scroll down and read what actions it's going to look for. So it's going to look for accounts that have been created and deleted in a short period of time within 24 hours. And it's going to alert you on those instances by creating an incident. So that's what basically this rule is going to do. As you can see, the query scheduling run every 1 hour. Look up for data from past 1 day. Start running automatically. And it's going to group all events into a single alert. Which means if this was to happen multiple times on multiple different accounts, it's going to just give you one alert. And then let's go to the next stage, which is the incident. So what's going to happen is that alert is going to create an incident for you, so you can actually take some action on that incident. So this is very important because you cannot look at alerts in Microsoft Sentinel individually. You can only look at alerts from an incident. So creating an incident is mandatory if you want to actually look at what's going on in your environment. So make sure that this is ticked all the time, whether you create an alert or a query rule from scratch or whether you're using one of the templates. And if you go next, now this is where you can attach a playbook for automated response. I mentioned earlier, Microsoft Sentinel is both a SIEM and a SOAR capable tool. In this example, I'm not going to attach any playbooks here, but I'll show you how to create a playbook towards the end of this tutorial. But for now, we're just going to leave it as it is and click review and create. It's going to go through some validation process, and once it's done, we will be able to click save, and which means the analytic rule or the query is going to get turned on and it should show up under active rules.